Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us, and welcome to the latest installment of IPDay's Tech Tuesday webinar series. Today, we're going to be continuing with the theme for this year, and that is the hot topic of AI and artificial intelligence. If you've been following our previous Tech Tuesday webinars that have been delivered this year, you've seen some of my IPDay colleagues talking about AI in adult ed and what a valuable tool that it can be for instructors. In this webinar, we're going to be taking a look at how we can leverage AI to help us analyze and gain some insights into our NRS data. Before we go any further, I suppose I should introduce myself. My name is Chris Bowers, and I'm joining you today from Broward County, Florida. I joined the IPDay team last year as a trainer and subject matter expert. I also worked for Broward County Schools in the Workforce Education Information Management Department, and that is the team that's tasked with overseeing the collection, maintenance, and reporting of all post-secondary and adult ed data that flows through Broward County, and that, of course, includes NRS data. A little housekeeping before we get started. As this is a webinar, everyone's going to be muted and in listen-only mode. If you've got a question, feel free to pop it into the chat. I'm going to be doing my best as we go along to periodically stop and answer some questions when I can. Lastly, as with all of our webinars, this one's being recorded and it will be archived and available on IPDay's website within a couple of days. Okay, so let's dive right in and take a look at today's agenda. We're actually going to be splitting this up into two sections. At first, I'm going to be doing a high-level overview of some of the need-to-know NRS stuff, in case anyone here isn't already familiar. And then we're going to be taking a look and talking about which tools we can leverage to dig into that NRS data and glean some insights and analysis. During the last portion, I'm actually going to be jumping in and doing a live demo with the tool that we've selected so you can see just how it works and what it can do. Along the way, I'll be sprinkling in some nuggets of AI wisdom in the form of tips, tricks, general AI strategies, and things that I've learned and discovered in my own use of this really extremely valuable technology. So a little bit of story time first. A few years ago, I was seated in the audience of an adult ed session at the ACE conference. And as the session kicked off, the presenter began their presentation with a slide listing a number of impressive highlights from his professional and personal resume. The last bullet on the list simply stated TLA aficionado. The presenter stood there. He had a wry smile. He was waiting for someone to take the bait. And finally, after a few seconds, someone inevitably raised their hands and said, "Hey, what's a TLA aficionado?" Well, the presenter was all too happy to explain that the most successful folks in adult ed had to be TLA, or three-letter acronym aficionados. So I always kind of think of that when I'm preparing a slide deck, because today I'm certainly going to be throwing a lot of acronyms at you, three-letter and otherwise, and hopefully by the end of the webinar, you'll be able to add a couple of these into your toolkit, your TLA toolkit. Okay, so for those of you that have already earned your TLA aficionado certification, you'll probably already know that NRS stands for the National Reporting System, and more specifically, the National Reporting System for Adult Education. Just a little bit of background, NRS was created by OCTE, which is the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education, and it was meant to be the mechanism responsible for tracking and reporting the performance of the adult ed programs that are receiving funding under AEFLA, or the Adult Education and Family Literacy Act, and the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which we all know and love as WIOA. So at its heart, NRS is really the organization that's in charge of tracking the performance of your adult ed programs through the data that your organizations submit and report to Florida DOE and the US DOE. So let's talk about what kinds of data NRS is collecting. Up on the screen, there's a short list of some of the main types of data that FLDOE is sending to NRS on our behalf each program year. Now, this is not by any means a comprehensive list, but it does highlight some of the core metrics that we're going to be talking about today and what many would consider to be the meat and potatoes of the NRS reports that we get each year. That's anyone who's had to chase down employment and certification information from their local HR department in order to fill out Table 7 can definitely tell you that this is not all of the data, but it's a good representation. So we collect all this data from our students. We send it to the Florida Department of Ed and the US Department of Ed through various reporting methods, but then what are they doing with it? Well, the data does get used in a variety of different ways, but I've highlighted the biggest and broadest uses of that on the screen. At the national level, Congress and US DOE are using the data to track the effectiveness of all of our local programs. They use those metrics to see just how the programs are performing and whether or not it's worthwhile to continue to fund them. At the state and local levels, the data drives decisions about program improvement, professional development, and even performance-based funding. And then, of course, in Florida, the data is used to validate compliance of agencies and to evaluate our local programs. And of course, everyone in adult ed knows that they use it to determine whether or not you have to write those lovely program improvement plans that we all are so fond of. Um, so moving on, if you've never counted the NRS tables, you might be surprised to find out that there are a whopping 17 total tables that make up your annual NRS reports. The chart on the screen kind of categorizes those 17 tables and breaks them down by alike data and analytic intent. Real quick, going through them, the first four tables, 1, 2, 2A, and 3, those are going to deal with the participant demographics. And there's different aggregations of the participants based on various demographic data types. The 4 and the 5 series tables are really what I mentioned, the meat and potatoes of NRS, because they deal with the two primary types of performance indicators, MSG EFL gains, and then employment and earnings. And all of that's laid out in various aggregations to give you an idea of the performance of your programs. The Table 6 series dives a little deeper into the employment, as well as giving some additional demographic breakdowns, while the last set of the tables provides outcome achievement data for IELCE, corrections, and the IET participant subgroups. So those of you with a keen eye might have noticed the omission of Table 8 amongst all of these and are asking yourselves what's going on with that. Well, I can tell you that Table 8 does exist. It's considered an optional table for states to report. So Florida, we treat Table 8 kind of like Bruno, and we just don't talk about it. Okay, so now that we've gotten a nice little overview of all the tables in your NRS reports, let's talk about the core tables for a minute. Like I said, that meat and potatoes group. Here we're talking about Table 4 and Table 5, and up on the screen, I've got a sample here of Broward County's NRS files from 23-24. So right away, just on this one table, you can see I had to zoom way out to get all of these columns on there. It's a ridiculous amount of data on one table. So we're gonna zoom in a little bit. We're gonna break it down to the left side of the table and the right side of the table. Again, real quick, just so you can kind of see what we're looking at. So we got a little bit better view here, and you can see everything that's going on here. Let me start just by saying that despite my TLA certification, I am not an NRS expert. I, like many of you, are challenged each year to try and make some sense of this data when we get it from the state. And in my effort to do that, I've become pretty familiar with these tables. But if you have questions about your specific NRS data, please reach out to the appropriate team at the Florida Department of Ed. Okay, so with that little disclaimer out of the way, let's jump in here for just a quick overview of Table 4. On the left here, you can see that all of the data is listed by entering educational functioning level, or EFL, if you're filling out your TLA bingo card. The EFL is, of course, the functioning level that the student entered with and received instruction on. Table 4 and its subsequent variants list all the EFLs for both ABE and for ESOL, but you can see I've kind of cropped it here. I've cropped off the ESOL rows just so we can get a better view, and so it's not so hard to read the tables. Okay, so next couple of columns is dealing with the number of students who participated in each of those EFLs, and then column D is showing the attendance hours for those different levels. The rest of the first period of participation columns deal with the MSGs, or the measurable skill gains, and specifically how many of each level participant achieved each type of the 5 available MSGs, and then how many left the program before achieving a gain. Also, we've got the number remaining, and then a nice percentage metric to see who achieved a gain, again, by functioning level. So that's the left side of the table for the first period of participation. If we look at the right side of the table for all periods of participation, we can see we've got more data included. There's counts of the total number of periods of participation, along with the number of POPs in each of the type of 5 MSGs that were obtained. Lastly, we've got, again, the percentage metric to show the percentage of POPs that had a measurable skill gain. So that's super quick overview of Table 4. As I mentioned, you probably know there's several variant tables that contain further breakdowns of the performance in each type or subtype of MSG. And there's also a table in there that has some great data and attendance on attendance and post-testers. Just moving on here, I promise I'm not going through every table, but I did give you the meat with Table 4, so we've got to talk a little bit about the starchy sidekick here with Table 5. Taking a quick look, you can see that Table 5 kind of centers around the exit-based indicators of performance, and what that really is looking at is how your NRS students are doing after they leave your programs. So our indicators here in column A, we've got things like employment at various intervals after departure. We've got earnings, attainment of a secondary diploma, post-secondary enrollment, and post-secondary credential attainment, and some more. So what it's showing you is basically a count of the number of participants who exited your program and then fell into one of these indicator buckets. And then moving on to the right here, we've got some more relevant percentages of achievement for each of the levels. And then just like table 4, we've got data for the first period of participation, and then as well the data for all relevant periods of participation. Now, Table 5 does have a variant. It's nearly identical to it's Table 5A, and it's nearly identical to Table 5. That contains all of the same data, but it's broken out for the specific subcategory of online and distance ed students. So if you've got a huge online program, take a look at Table 5A, and there's some real good data in there. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of data going on here. We've got 17 tables. This was just 2 of them, and you can see there's a ton to be seen here. If we're not careful and you don't take care, you could definitely end up under the dreaded data avalanche. So yeah, we don't want to be under the data avalanche. Having all of this data is great, and it really has the potential to provide a lot of insight into your programs. However, the biggest challenge for most of these agencies is turning this pile of spreadsheets and tables into some actionable insight or intelligence for them to use. So how can we unbury ourselves from the data avalanche? Well, we'll get to that. But first, let's have a little bit more story time. So growing up, my dad was one of those guys who just knew how to fix stuff. We didn't call plumbers or take the family car to mechanics or even hire contractors because dad always just seemed to know what to do. As his loyal apprentice for many years, he imparted a lot of wisdom to me, offering all the usual nuggets about, not giving up when things get hard and working smarter, not harder. But one of the mantras that always stuck out to me was about having the right tool for the job. So not only did this ideal of my dad's lead to a fantastic garage wonderland full of shiny tools, but as I observed growing up, having the right tool for the job usually made the job much easier, and it tended to yield better results when the inspector, aka my mom, came around to sign off on the job. So in my professional career, as well as at home, I've adopted a lot of my dad's little tidbits of wisdom, but one that I always try to do is to have the right tool for the job. So then, my friends, where does this walk down memory lane leave us in terms of selecting the best tool to use for our task of analyzing our NRS data? What will be our metaphorical St. Bernard digging away on our behalf to rescue us from this daunting deluge of data? Well, the answer to that question is the same answer that many industries around the globe are finding today when they're faced with seemingly insurmountable tasks. And that's, hey, let's get the robots to do it. So unless you've been disconnected for the last 18 months or 2 years, I don't know, maybe you've been buried under an avalanche of data, you've probably heard of and or interacted with some form of AI, artificial intelligence, neural networks, machine language, or machine learning or large language models. If you've read the news, I'm sure you've heard companies like OpenAI and products like ChatGPT in the headlines. Anyone who's performed a Google search in the last year has certainly been greeted with Google Gemini's take on their query. Or perhaps you've just recently been frustrated by Microsoft Copilot inviting all of your Microsoft Office apps and popping up constantly with suggestions, making you long for the days of Clippy, the not so helpful animated assistant of old. No matter what your personal views of AI are, its usefulness as a productivity tool really cannot be overstated. The AI platforms and models widely available today have expert level knowledge in nearly every category on the planet. And it's like having a personal PhD in your pocket who knows everything about everything. Well, mostly. And that's why AI is definitely the right tool for our job. However, with so many AI platforms and tool options available, let me scroll back here. With so many AI platform and tools available, just knowing that we want to use AI is not really enough. The names and logos on the screen are really just a small sampling of the major players in today's AI landscape. And that landscape, let me tell you, it changes every day. To truly get the right tool for the job among all these potential candidates, we need to understand some of the nuances and the different offerings and how their specific abilities can be better or worse for our use case. All right, so anyone who's attended an IP Day webinar this year has probably already gotten a bit of a primer when it comes to AI, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time diving into the weeds on the specifics of how AI works. That could be several sessions in itself. Instead, I'm going to provide a high-level overview and try and frame how we're going to be using it today during our webinar. So what is AI? Well, in general, it's a term for AI, artificial intelligence, basically refers to a computer system that can understand, learn, and respond in ways that mimic human reasoning. Well, what can it do? Well, most modern AI systems are trained on a massive amount of text data, and that allows them to generate human-like responses to questions or commands. They can recognize patterns of data, understand and generate language and text. They can make predictions or recommendations and automate repetitive tasks, even generate simple code for starters. Most of you have actually been using and interacting with less sophisticated AI systems for years now. Every time you've used autocorrect or asked Siri or Alexa to put on a song, or even gotten a movie recommendation from Netflix, you've used AI. Accessing sophisticated AI is all too easy today. In fact, in some cases, it's harder not to interact with AI than it is to seek it out, as employers are trying to ramp up adoption of AI by staff. Most users, from what we've seen, most users are interacting with AI models in various implementations of three basic interfaces. And I'll go through those real quick. The first one is chatbots, conversational assistants like ChatGPT, where users can ask questions and have the AI draft content or even analyze data. The second way is through embedded tools that live in the app that you already use. And that allows you to interact with generative AI models. An example of that would be like Copilot in your Microsoft Office apps. The third way is through search-powered AI, and that combines web search with generative AI answers. And a good example of that would be Google Gemini. It's taking your regular search query and it's running it through the AI and providing a more robust response for you. Okay, so how are educators using AI? Well, pulling from some of the webinars that my amazing colleagues at IPDAY have already delivered this year, we can see that educators are using AI in all sorts of ways, such as writing and communication. They're turning to AI to assist with generating written text and communications like emails to colleagues and students. Research has grown to be a big part of educator use. It allows teachers and instructors to get a greater understanding of a topic and maybe even deepen their understanding of what they're teaching. We see that teachers are turning to AI for help in generating instructional material like lesson plans, tests, study guides, and syllabi. Even data analysis. We see this mostly with situations like today, where we're going to be analyzing student performance data. And automation. That's a big part of education use, as we see educators trying to offload some of their repetitive tasks that bog them down and let them focus on actually working with their students. Okay, so now we've talked through a bit of the different types and uses for AI. I want to start narrowing in on exactly what we're going to be using today with our NRS data. Going back to our right tool for the job mantra, we know that we want to leverage AI for the task of analyzing our data, and we've seen the last landscape of AI providers and platforms available. So how do we know which one is right for us? Well, a few months ago, when I first started developing this webinar, that was a much easier question to answer. Back then, I would have said, hey, just point your browser at chatgpt.com and start getting to know your local chatbot before you feed it your NRS data and see what it has to say. Well, the world of AI is moving at such a breakneck speed that there's even better tools that have been developed in just the last few months that they're better suited to assist us with our analysis than some AI chatbot that was yesterday's news. So to put it another way, if AI were Taylor Swift, it would be entering its agents era. Yeah, so AI agents, they're one of the latest leaps forward in AI development. On the surface, they look and function similarly to a lot of the AI chatbots that you've already used. But agents have secret talents that make them far more useful for certain tasks than your average chatbot. While chatbots are great for telling you how to do things, agents are kind of the next evolution and have the ability to actually do things for you. The chart on the screen highlights some of the key differences between AI chatbots and AI agents. You can think of agents as kind of like the chatbot's more capable older sibling. A chatbot, for example, can recommend the best pair of running shoes for you, but an agent can find them on sale and purchase them for you online. A chatbot can help you design a process that would for alerting teachers when their students have reached a testing threshold or an hourly threshold. An AI agent can not only help you design that process, it can deploy it for you, it can create instructional content, and even email your staff to let them know what's going on. So an AI chatbot can generate pictures for you, but an AI agent can code an app that will generate pictures for you. So just a kind of a difference here. I'm not going to go through the whole table, but you can see that in general, AI chatbots are for talking and AI agents are for doing. They can be purpose-built to meet the specifics of an organization. They're highly flexible and customizable. And because of this, organizations across the globe are rushing to build and deploy custom agentic AI solutions to assist their customers, employees, or both. Now, I can hear you already. even across the void of cyberspace. You're thinking, Chris, that's all well and good, but there's no way my school or district, they can barely afford paper clips. They're not going to build or buy a custom agent solution just to save me time in analyzing my data. I hear you. Times are tough. Resources are harder to come by. But the good news is you don't have to build anything, rely on your IT team, or even buy anything because Microsoft, of all people, has already built the agent we'll be using. And even better news is that this agent that I'm going to show you is already included in most of the Microsoft educational licensing plans that include Copilot. So to determine who among our state of Florida colleagues would actually had access to this agent, I did the very scientific method of polling pretty much every educator I interacted with in the last 3 months at various state conferences, meetings, trainings, cocktail hours. And it became clear that pretty much everyone in Florida already has a Microsoft license with access to Copilot. It's this near ubiquitous accessibility coupled with some of the cool features and functionality that I'm going to show you that really have led me to determine that the right tool for their job is Microsoft 365 Copilot Analyst Agent. Yeah, that's a mouthful, right? Such an elegant name. All right, so how do you use and access the Microsoft 365 Copilot Analyst Agent anyway? Well, the first step is to log into your Microsoft account on the web, point your browser to office.com and smash that login button. Once you've logged in with your district or school's credentials, you'll probably get dropped off at this new Copilot home screen. This is the bane of anyone who's logged in and just wanted to see their apps. So now seems like a good time to kind of illustrate the difference between the Copilot chat, which is the screen that I'm showing here in the PowerPoint, and the Copilot analyst agent that we're actually going to be using. While not my personal preferred favorite AI chatbot, Copilot chat can be useful for things, especially if your organization has enabled this work web grounding toggle that actually allows Copilot to read and interpret all of your emails and your OneDrive files to kind of give it some context as to what you're working on. You can use this chat interface just like you would ChatGPT. And actually, if you don't have a paid account for another AI platform, this is a good enough chatbot to use because your education license actually would get you access to a higher pool of resources and contextual memory than you would get with a free account at another provider. But at the end of the day, Copilot chatbot is not the right tool for the job and therefore not the droids we are looking for. So let's go find the analyst agent that we are looking for and check that out. So it should be over here. If you're in your Microsoft 365 Copilot screen, you should see this analyst agent right over here underneath the researcher agent. Research is great too. If you're doing any kind of deep research project, highly recommend it. But right now we are actually going to be working with the analyst. So let's see. Yep. So we're ready to dive in. Now, what I'm going to do here, give me a couple minutes here while I set up. I'm actually going to be doing a live demo, as I mentioned. We're going to be diving in and working on that. So let me set up my split screen here. Okay. Just real quick, while we're interacting with the live demo, there's going to be some periods of time where the analyst agent is analyzing the data. So it's going to be doing its thing. While that's happening, sometimes it takes a little while. I'm going to be popping back over here to the PowerPoint to go over some more tips and tricks and things that I've learned, best practices, that sort of thing. I'm also going to use that time to pop into the chat and see if there's any burning questions. So if you've got a question, go ahead and type it in there. Okay, so we have our web browser loaded up, and I've already navigated here to the Microsoft Copilot Analyst Agent, and you can see that I've already kind of started a session with it. Now, I really wanted to do the whole live demo start to finish during this session, but during my testing, it was taking about 8 minutes for the agent to kind of ingest this initial content, and so I didn't want to spend 8 minutes waiting around. So what I've done is I've already preloaded the context for this agent, and I'm going to go through that now with you while we talk about context. So context is very important when you're working with AI, and it's what that is going to do. That really gives you gives the AI context to what you're going to be talking about. So let me see here. Yeah, so context provides the agent or chatbot with background knowledge. It lets you know, lets the agent know what you're working on and what you would like it to do. And it's where you can kind of lay out for the AI how you want it to behave, your expectations for the session, as well as providing it valuable background information on the topic. So like imagine that you had hired someone specifically to take a look at your NRS data. You wanted to get them up to speed on NRS. They know nothing about it. Well, what would you give them? You would probably start by sitting them down in front of some NRS manuals, maybe give them the technical assistance paper, hand them some business rules, say, hey, give them a big stack of papers, say, hey, read all this. And that would be probably a great way to bolster their knowledge going into it about NRS and everything involved. Well, the same goes for your AI partner. What we're doing is we're giving it some context. You can see I provided it 4 documents up here. And just to let you know, these are the district 24-25 business rules for NRS. We've also given them the TA reporting guide for this year. I gave them 2 one-page sheets. This topic 3 lists the national performance metrics for NRS in case we want to compare our performance to the national performance. And then this was a supplementary document on IET that I gave it just so it's familiar with some of the nuances of IET. All of this stuff is available in the handout that you're going to get if you want to copy and paste. So you can feed those right to the AI with your context and give them a nice background knowledge of what you're talking about. Okay, so let's go through this context prompt real quick. Again, this is included if you want to copy and paste this in, if you're trying to replicate this back at your own district. So what I've done is I'm telling the agent exactly what it is. You're an analytical assistant. You're helping me interpret data from NRS. I'm telling it a little bit about what NRS is. And then I'm telling it what my NRS data set is. It summarizes aggregated student performance and outcomes for adult ed programs, gives it some information about that. Here, we're telling it what we want it to focus on. We want it to focus on the core tables, which is table 4 and its variants, and then table 5. We're telling it there's other tables there that may become applicable later on. And here we're telling it, we're kind of explaining those reference documents that I gave it. You can see the technical assistance guide, the NRS rules, the performance overview at the national level, and then the IET information. So I'm kind of explaining to the agent what these documents are that I gave it to read. And now I'm telling it what the instructions are. We only want it to analyze the data provided by the user. We don't want it to invent or estimate values that aren't in the data set. And if it's confused about something or something's missing or ambiguous, we want it to tell us clearly. We're telling it where to focus its analysis on, measurable skill gains and credential attainment. And here we're telling it to present its findings clearly. We want it to use plain language summaries, not too much jargon, bulleted insights, visuals if they're appropriate. And this last point here, we're going to go over this again in a minute, but this is really important. Maintain data integrity. We're telling it to never use external information to replace or estimate missing data. We're saying if it's asked for state or national comparisons, to use only the figures that we've provided it and to not go assuming or pulling things from the internet. We want it to just use the information that we've given it. Okay, so our agent ingested all of that. It read all of the documents, and you can see that it's given us a little bit of an overview. Now, this is basically just telling us, it's a bit of summary of each of the documents we gave it. This is it letting us know that it understands what we're asking of it. It's on the same level as us in terms of it's familiar with the documents now, and it can go ahead and start with the analysis once we give it our data. So you can see it's kind of just giving us the summary of the key definitions. These are all directly from those documents that I gave it. Here it's suggesting some next steps for us. We don't need its suggestions. We are ready to go with our own stuff. So now that we've primed the agent with the proper context, it's really ready to analyze our data. We need to feed it the data. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on our plus sign here. We're going to upload our images and files. I've got our Broward NRS report here. I'm going to go ahead and open that. So it's uploading there. And then I'm going to give it a specific task to do. Now I've got my performance. We've got 4 performance tasks that we're going to give it today. I've got my first one here. We're going to copy and paste that in. Okay, so we're going to let that go ahead and do its thing. As I said, this is this is an unedited NRS file. This is exactly how I get it from DOE, the same way that all the districts get it. So it's going through and it's looking at all that. And while it's running, I want to talk a little bit about the output that you're seeing on the screen, because this is incredibly valuable in helping you troubleshoot any issues and kind of gives you an idea of what the agent is doing. So anytime you give it a prompt, it's going to go through and it's going to give you this little layout with these arrows and tell you just exactly what it's doing. And I'm going to take you through a little bit of this just so you can kind of see. You can see that it's looking at the NRS file. It's opening it. It's using a script here. Let me see if I can find the script here. Yeah, so you see, before I mentioned AI agents have the ability to use tools. One of the tools it implements all the time is Python script. You can see this little tidbit here. It's going through. It's using pandas and Python to extract the data from the table. So it's working through. It's already it's assigning names to the columns, identifying the table structure. It's parsing all of these things out, and it really is. It gives you kind of an idea of what exactly it's doing. Now, this is great if you start seeing it say things like, "Oh, I'm having trouble finding the file," or "Oh, searching for a missing file." That happens from time to time, as I've noticed with this analyst agent. If you feed it too many data files at a time for it to analyze, sometimes it can get a little lost and lose its place. Just keep an eye on it here, this output, and it'll let you know if it's failing or if it needs to be restarted or what. But in general, this little output here is great for kind of knowing what it's doing and having an idea of how long it's going to take to do some of the things here. So let's see here. It's pulling the data into the rows. It says looking into the data. It seems that only the first 16 indexes are visible. Okay, so it's trying to work through some issues. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but it's working through the Excel file. Sometimes AI doesn't really like Excel. It prefers a different format, but like I said, we'll be talking about that later. Okay, so it's already down here. It's already looking at table 5, which means it's almost done. It's detailing the measurable skill gains for ABE and ESL along with employment credentials. So we should be seeing this here wrap up. I'm going to check in on the chat here just to see. I don't see any burning questions as of yet. So we will let that go. I'm going to give this just a couple more seconds. I really do believe this is almost done. All right. Well, it's taken its time. So we're going to move on and skip ahead a little bit. So let's see. You can see, yep, this is the first performance task that we're going to or that we gave it. I'm sorry. It's basically it's analyzing our tables 4 and 5. It's looking for summarizing the MSG rates. It's looking at credential attainment, employment outcomes. It's highlighting the program types to show the strongest and the weakest performance of any of those. I apologize. I should have gone through that when I pasted it in there. But that is what it's looking at right now. And boy, this went a lot faster in some of my practice sessions, so I apologize that this is taking a bit of a minute. But as I said, I think it's finishing up here. Just give it one more second. I promise I'm not going to keep you waiting around for too long. Okay, it's still going. It's doing its thing. So we're going to go in here. I'm going to start talking about some of my tips and tricks while it is analyzing, and then we will come back as we go. So here we go. General tips, AI tips and tricks. I'll admit it. I'll be the first to admit I'm a bit of an AI fanboy. I was an early adopter. I haven't looked back. I use AI daily in both my personal and professional life. So throughout those experiences, I've learned quite a bit about both the front end and the back end. And I thought, well, we've got some time. I'll share some of the things I've learned. Maybe some of these things will help you guys out. The first thing is going to be safety first. This is a really important one. Don't tell the AI your personal details. Don't tell it your address, your phone number, your maiden name, your social security number, or your credit card number. No, it's not going to steal your identity. But there are certain situations. And if you read all those terms and conditions that everyone just hurries up and clicks agree to, you'll see this. There's some situations where these AI providers can use your messages with the AI as training data for new versions of the AI. Well, sometimes that training data gets made public, and if your information was used in training the data in a training data set, well, now your chat logs can be publicly available for anyone to see. There's actually a specific Google search that you can do to see if your training data from your account has been made available publicly. I encourage you to go on Google and just Google that itself, and Gemini will serve you up that syntax to plug in your username and your preferred AI platform, and it will go ahead and search to see if any of your message logs are available online. Next, be specific and be honest. I'm sure we've all seen some version of that old movie trope where the guy finds a magic lamp with a genie and he unleashes the genie and it grants him 3 wishes, but unfortunately that genie takes everything way too literally. So the guy asks wishes for $1 million and he gets a living room full of antlered reindeer instead of a pile of cash. Yep. You gotta treat the AI like that genie. Be specific in your requests. You'll get better results. Tell it the type of file you want. Tell it what to avoid. Tell it what exactly you want. The same goes for when you don't know what to tell it. If you don't understand something it's talking about, tell it. Ask it to rephrase an answer in a more simplified manner. It really does well with explain it like I'm five, and it almost never it never represents you. Excuse me, it never resents you for making it repeat itself. The next thing, build in some guardrails to keep it on track. I mentioned this a little earlier when we were talking about our context prompt, but telling the AI exactly what it can and can't do is always helpful. In our context, we told it only to use the data that was in the file and not to make up data or infer things that it couldn't be backed up with data that was in the file. Just like with children, AI performs better and more reliably when you specify the rules that it has to play by. Telling it to always provide its sources in line is also helpful when you're doing any kind of research-based project, because that just makes sure that the AI is not quoting randos from Reddit as subject matter experts. Okay, last on this slide, we tell it to use Markdown format. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're all familiar with the most common file types, right? PDF, Word, Excel docs. These are the standards of today. Well, AI doesn't always work perfectly with those file types. It generally prefers more open source file types that aren't tied to a specific vendor. Sometimes it struggles with formatting Excel if you've got double headers and all kinds of weird formatting. Depending on how PDFs were published by the original author, there can be some weirdness there that it has trouble parsing the text. So the file type that the AI most prefers is something called Markdown, or MD. And that's basically a plain text file format. It's like a TXT file, but it's got some additional formatting sprinkled in that allows for easy reading and parsing for the AI. In fact, it is the preferred file format for text data. If you're using numerical data with the AI, you want to stick to your CSV files. If you're asking the AI to generate anything that you're going to want it to read later, definitely ask for it in an MD file. It's super easy for humans to read too, but the formatting makes the processing by the AI almost instantaneous. Okay, so I'm gonna skip back here a little bit. We are going to talk. Looks like our agent has provided us a response here. Okay, so let's see what it had to say about our performance overview query. So right now, it's telling us our overall MSG rate, 32% for the district for the first period of participation. It's breaking it down by our two program types, telling us we got a 30.7, about 30.7% average for ABE and a 32% average for ESL. It's telling us some patterns that it's found. The MSG rate climbs from low entry levels to mid levels and then drops at the highest levels. Beginning ABE levels and advanced ESL levels show the weakest performance. And there's, let's see, IET MSG counts are negligible, single digits. Well, we would expect that. We're still trying to build some of our IET programs. It's giving us some indicators from table 5, some things that it's pulling out. Observations, employment outcomes are low, about 15% in quarter 2 and quarter 4. Credential attainment varies. It's given us some information here, strengths and weaknesses about the different levels, where our highest performing students are, where our lowest performing students are. And here it's got some anomalies. Post-secondary credential attainment is excellent, about 51%, but that only applies to about 238 participants. So giving us some visuals here. We didn't ask for visuals, but it went ahead and crafted some. So yeah, it looks like it's given us breakout by the different levels and MSG attainment. So it's focusing on all the things we told it to focus on. And it looks like it's done a pretty good job of giving a real high level summary of what we saw in that table 4 and table 5. It's giving us some key takeaways here. And then of course, some next steps. Now, this is all great. You know, you got a director or a department head that says, hey, give me an overview of our NRS data. You know, you plug this in, you got it, little copy and paste, and you're done in about the amount of time it took you to make your first pot of coffee, right? Great, right? Not so fast. We have to verify. Verification is a crucial step when working with any AI platform. If you ask anyone who works with it on a regular basis, I'm sure they'll have some sort of anecdote about the AI hallucinating or messing up basic arithmetic. So you always need to double check because it does make mistakes. Now, back in our context prompt, we included some verbiage to help you kind of mitigate this. And I'm reasonably sure, being familiar with this data set, that the agent got it right this time, just seeing some of those numbers. But we're still going to double check. I've got my original file here for the NRS. This is the one that we uploaded, 2425. So real quick, we're just going to go through. We're going to spot check a couple values just to make sure that the AI is doing everything that it says it's doing. So I'm going to look here. Our ABE average 30.7. So if I come over here for our ABE average, we can see that it's about 30.5. Now, obviously some rounding differences when it was calculating these versus just reading it off the table. Let's see here. It's saying ABE level 5 was about 63. So let's see, level 5 here, about 63. Is that what we got? Yep, 63. Okay. Let's look here at our ESL average. The lowest level was level 6, 17.7. Let's make sure that it's pulling that in correctly. ESL level 6 and 17.7. Great. So it looks like the AI is it's using the right data, it's pulling back the right figures. And again, I'm reasonably sure with this data set, because I've seen it about 50,000 times in preparing for this webinar, that these are the numbers that are actually in the data. So we're reasonably sure that the AI is doing what it's supposed to do. So we verified because it does make mistakes. Okay, so we've hit it with our best shot, verified the data. So now it's time to fire away and ask for some specific analysis. And from this point, you're just playing pitch and catch with the AI. You're asking it questions in plain language and seeing what it has to say. I've got my prompts here, so I'm going to copy task number 2. And this is going to be, I'm going to be asking it to do an analysis of instructional efficiency. So I'm telling it to look at our NRS tables 4 and 5 for Broward County, perform an analysis of instructional efficiency across all ABE levels, factoring in attendance hours. So I want it to look at ABE only, and I want it to zero in on attendance hours. And from the data that's in the tables, I want it to create some kind of metric that will help me analyze the instructional efficiency of our programs. While it's doing its thing, we're going to come back over here. Just real quick, before we go on, I did want to take a minute to emphasize my point about AI not being perfect. Keen observers have probably figured out that our little that all of these little visuals that I've made were very intentionally developed with AI. You probably figured that out. Everything in my slide deck was generated by AI. So in developing the webinar, I consulted heavily with ChatGPT, and we brainstormed on some ideas. And we've kind of settled on this worried businessman and his AI buddy motif for all the slides. Well, some of you might have noticed that our friendly little AI robot is wearing 2 baseball mitts in this graphic. And I must have tried about 15 times to get the AI to generate this same picture with only 1 baseball mitt. And it wouldn't do it, just refused flat out. So again, AI is great, not perfect. Just figured I'd leave that in there to kind of illustrate the point that it is not perfect. Make sure you double check it. And okay, so it's going through, it's doing its thing. I'm going to skip back down here to some of our other tips and tricks while that is running. Okay, so let's talk about getting the most out of your AI partner. Okay, again, self-identified nerd here. I'll be the first to admit that my social media feeds are chock full of AI, news, information, tips, prompt generation content, etc. And through that, I find a lot of hacks that people have discovered on these AI platforms. And when I say hacks, I'm not talking about anything black-hatted or nefarious. Remember that AI is programmed to interact and respond in ways that are natural and human-like. So just like any young human that hasn't been around that long, AI is pretty easy to trick or manipulate and falls victim to many of the same kind of social engineering or positive reinforcements that young humans will. So while it might not be obvious, you can actually use tactics like reverse psychology or creating a false sense of urgency to trick the AI into upping its game. There's even been studies showing that the way you interact with the AI has a big impact on the results it gives you. So with that in mind, here are some tips for maximizing your AI partner's output. Guys, you got to be nice to your AI. Studies have shown that just like humans, the AI tends to be more helpful and provide subjectively better results when you say things like please and thank you. Also, most AI seem to respond to positive and negative reinforcement. So things like praising it for a particularly good response or gently correcting it when it's less than stellar response, that can go a long way towards getting the results that you want out of your AI partner. Okay, second thing is getting out what you put in. This is an important one. When you first start a new chat or a new project with your AI, it's going to use those first few messages between the two of you to establish the tone of the conversation. Now, if your initial instructions and your prompt are terse and to the point, then the AI is going to respond accordingly. Conversely, if your initial messages are real flowery and verbose, then the AI is going to catch on to that and it's going to try and respond in the same way because really it just wants to please you. It's no secret, ChatGPT loves to be pretty free and let those emojis fly in its responses. Now, if that's your thing, then you can let those emojis fly right back in your prompts, and the AI will continue to mirror that in its responses. Take note of the keyboard shortcuts that are on the screen to maximize your emoji usage if that's your thing. But if emojis are not your love language, then a simple line of text indicating your distaste for them should be enough to get the AI to stop using them, at least during that chat. Next, don't be afraid to raise the stakes with AI. Studies have shown that creating a sense of urgency or importance for a particular set of prompts can really help it focus and deliver better results. So if you've been having trouble getting the AI to do what you want, try betting at $100 that it can't do what you're asking. I promise, if it succeeds, it is not going to come collecting on the bet. Uh, Along the same lines, reverse psychology is shown to be effective in kind of breaking through issues that the AI has. If you say something like, "Oh, it's too bad you can't do X, Y, or Z," that would be really helpful. That's a surefire way to kind of light a proverbial fire under your AI in its effort to help you. Um, Okay, along the same lines, leveling with your AI and telling it that the next part is, really important, or to take its time and think longer for a better response. That can really help. It often will indeed yield better, more well-formed responses. Don't be afraid to tell it to think longer, especially if you're using a free version of an AI platform where your limitation is often the number of messages you can do in a day. So if you ask the AI to think longer, you'll get better results in needing fewer tries to get your intended output, and that allows you to use those extra messages that you have to getting to getting more content out of the AI instead of using those messages to refine the responses that you've already gotten. Lastly, I just want to mention diary or journal entries. As I said earlier, pretty much every piece of this webinar was intentionally developed with AI in some way. Needless to say, this development was spread out over a period of weeks and was often put on pause as I had to address other deadlines or pressing issues. As such, there were often, long gaps where I couldn't get back to working on the webinar. And as is the case with AI, things flowed in and out of its memory over those gaps. So then how can I hope to achieve a cohesive experience with my AI partner on a project that's spread out across several work sessions? And in between those work sessions, heavily unrelated use of the same AI in between. How can we keep it from forgetting everything? Well, that's where journal entries come into play. I've heard them called lots of different things: journal entries, diary notes, project reference documents, but they're all basically ways of preserving continuity across work sessions with AI. Basically, when you're wrapping up a particularly productive work session, ask your AI to generate a journal entry or a project reference doc about everything you did or accomplished during that session. Ask it to provide you an MD file so that when you can save it to your computer. That little MD file now becomes the context to prime your AI the next time you're ready to work on the project. When that time comes, just fire up your AI of choice, feed it this little MD file, and get it up to speed on where you left off the last time. The journal entry provides all the info it needs to jump right back in. And not for nothing, it serves as a nice reminder to you, the human, about what happened last time. And again, this is particularly useful if you don't have a paid subscription to one of the platforms and you have to break up work sessions to align with when your cooldown period resets. Okay, let's check in on our AI over here. Okay, great. It looks like it's got our instructional analysis done here. So let's take a look and see just exactly what it gave back to us. Okay, so it's telling us the formula it used to calculate instructional efficiency. That's nice. So it's telling us efficiency was the total MSGs over attended hours divided by 100. So this is giving us the MSGs per 100 instructional hours for each ABE level. Remember, we told it to only look at ABE because I didn't want it to bog down too much parsing all that data. So you can see right now it's giving us the counts, the attendance hours, and the participants. And then over here, if I scroll, it's giving us a kind of ratio for efficiency. And down here, it's giving us some key insights: ABEs and ABE levels 1 and 2. Very low productivity despite high attendance. So students are coming a lot. They're not necessarily achieving a lot. Maybe some intervention can be done there. Maybe we need to focus more on those ABE levels 1 and 2. It's telling us, conversely, that ABE level 5 is the highest efficiency by far. So it's 0.35 MSG per 100 hours. That's pretty good metric. What are the teachers that are teaching ABE level 5 doing that maybe the teachers ABE levels 1 and 2 aren't doing? So you can see already there's some opportunity to glean some real insight just from this one little metric. But Okay, it's given us some overall efficiency, about 0.12 MSGs per 100 hours across all levels. So yeah, it even gave us some visuals. Now I didn't ask it for visuals, but it decided that it was appropriate and went ahead and gave us some. Um, this looks like it could be useful. I'd have to kind of dig into it a little bit and see. But again, if you're asked for, some kind of information about the efficiency of your programs or the instructional efficiency, this was really easy to get. We didn't have to break too many brain cells to get to this point right here. Okay, so let's see. We've talked about instructional efficiency. Let's get one more prompt here. Actually, I'm going to go back because I skipped this one. Yeah. So next, let's get a little bit tricky with the AI. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give it what essentially equates to an impossible task. I'm going to ask it to correlate MSG rates with employment outcomes. Now, I know this is an impossible task because even though on the outset this seems like a really good metric to have and something that could give us a lot of information, but I know that this is kind of impossible to do because our MSGs are aggregated at the program level, whereas our employment outcomes are aggregated at the district level. So I want to see if the AI can pick up on that instead of being, a typical sycophant of just telling us exactly what we want to hear. I want it to be a little bit critical and see if it's actually going to tell us, hey, maybe this isn't the best idea to correlate those two things. Okay, so while that's running, I'm going to go back here and kind of talk about maybe some additional use cases. Let's take a look at my time. I'm running short on time, so we'll do our best to get through some of this stuff here. Okay, cross-year comparison and trend analysis. This is actually really cool. I wanted to do this live during the demo, have it feed it a couple different years of NRS files and have it do some comparison across the two. It's definitely very good at that, and it's very effective at doing it. Unfortunately, it does take a while to kind of parse all of those parse those data files, and analyze them. So I didn't want to take up too much time having it do that here. But if you're going to go ahead and try and recreate any of this back in your own district, I definitely recommend doing some cross-year comparisons. They love trend analysis in my district. I get asked for it all the time, so that's definitely something that I turn to the AI to do. Okay. Data dashboards. This one's a bit on the advanced side, but if your organization has a Power BI or a Tableau license, then you can use Copilot to actually guide you through creating some data dashboards for your stakeholders to go and view this data in real time. So that's something you could kind of look at. My last prompt here was going to be to have it to create a narrative for us, and that was specifically geared towards what we would kind of turn in for a program improvement plan, because I know often it's hard to kind of say the same thing three different ways. So AI is great for taking a look at that data and providing some narrative help with those program improvement plans. Year-over-year database. This is a fun one, something I've taken to doing with any agency that gives me data year over year in the same format. What you can actually do is feed those data files that it gives you, aggregated, again, not with student info, but aggregated. It'll give you those files, give the AI those files and let it kind of develop a database for you. Actually have it save a little SQL-like database in a file, and you can save that on your computer. Now, next time you need to pull data from this set of reports, just feed the AI the little database and you can query it in plain language. You don't need to know SQL or any kind of querying language. You can just feed it the entire database full of data that you've prepared and year over year, and it can give you some insight just in plain language by asking it to look at that database that you fed it and give you some answers. Lastly, creating a custom agent for stakeholders. This one's definitely advanced and something that I'm actually working on right now in my spare time. But if you've got a lot of Microsoft access in your organization, you can definitely build out a custom agent just like the one we're using, but you can already have it purpose-built for analyzing NRS or DOE data, whatever kind of data you are often asked to analyze. You can build an agent. You can have the agent help build an agent to analyze that data specifically. So that's some use cases that I've come across. Again, I'm always excited to hear about different use cases, especially in the education sector. Yeah, something that I often enjoy hearing about when I'm speaking with folks. Okay, so looking at the chat here, I'm gonna go through and see if I can answer any of these while this is finishing up. Asking about if the recording will be available later. Yes, definitely. That's already been answered. Information is excellent. Thank you so much. Are you planning to deliver future trainings in these subjects? Yeah, I believe IPDAY definitely has more webinars scheduled. I know there's one coming up tomorrow that is on, I'll talk about at the end here. Let's see. Yep. So most of the questions seem to be about whether or not the recording is going to be available. It definitely is. So go ahead and check that out. We've got 6 minutes here. Let's see if we can get it done. It's come back here. Let's see if we tricked the AI. If we got it to tell us that this was a stupid query. Let's see. What did it do? It extracted average MSG rates from table 4. Okay, we knew it already did that before. It extracted employment and credential indicators from table 5. Yep, that's what it did before. Okay, here we go. Table 5 does not break down outcomes by program type. All employment and credential percentages are district-wide, so both. Okay, so here we go. It picked up on the key limitation. So it's telling us this is not very good. It gave us this ridiculous scatter plot of data that is pretty stupid. Not a lot of information there to be had. I'm glad to see that it didn't say, great, here's your correlation, and just made up some stuff that sounds good in a narrative. It actually took a critical look at the data and said, hey, this is probably not a good idea. Lack of disaggregated data in table 5. Yeah, so it's all over it. It picked up on our little roadblock and handled it pretty well. Okay, one last thing. I'm going to let this run while we finish up. And this is just to put it all together and provide a narrative summary of everything we talked about, include some visuals, compare it to the national average, that sort of stuff. Okay, so real quick, oops. Yep, so while that's doing it, we're gonna wrap up here. I go over these learning objectives. I think we were able to cover most of them, if not all of them. And yeah, this might take a while. Again, it's going to be generating visuals. It's going to be generating some narrative text. So just kind of the last piece of the puzzle here. We'll see if it gets through it by the end. But I think we can probably start to wrap it up now. And we'd love your feedback. We appreciate you joining us today. Please take a minute to give that feedback. While you're doing that, I did mention that there's going to be that webinar tomorrow, and the title of that webinar is Today's Workforce Prep for the Adult Education Classroom. And we definitely encourage you to go ahead and take a look at that, check it out. That's tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And again, all of the IPDAY webinars are recorded and cataloged. Just log into the IPDAY website and go to the webinars tab. You'll see those recordings under the relevant webinar links. Yep. So that's going to be all for me. I've reached the end of my time. Again, if there's any questions that I didn't get to in the chat, I will do my best to reach out to you and answer those down the road. And you should be seeing that feedback survey on your screen right now. Definitely encourage you to fill that out so that we can continue to make these sessions as useful as they can be for adult educators. Thanks again, everyone. Appreciate your time, and have a great day.